If you're looking at the Celestron AstroMaster 130EQ as your first serious telescope, you've probably heard it's a powerful starter scope for deep space. But trying to choose the right telescope is an absolute minefield of confusing specs and buyer's remorse. You want to see Saturn's rings, not assemble a frustrating puzzle in the dark. I've spent 6 months with this exact telescope, and I'm going to reveal the 3 absolute truths you must know before buying, including the one critical accessory you won't find in the box. For the best price, click the link in the description. /N, but here's what surprised me. This telescope is simultaneously one of the most capable beginner instruments on the market and one of the most potentially frustrating. Therefore, your entire experience hinges on understanding these 3 key things we're diving into now. The promise is simple. By the end of this review, you'll know if the AstroMaster 130EQ is your ticket to the cosmos or a trip to the return counter. Let's get into it. /N, the first thing you absolutely need to know is all about its signature feature, the motor drive. Now, if you're new, tracking is everything. The Earth spins, so your target drifts out of view. The 130EQ comes with a motor drive you can attach to its equatorial mount, a huge selling point. The promise is smooth, automatic tracking to keep Jupiter centered while you gaze. But here's the twist they don't highlight in bold letters. It only tracks in one axis. Therefore, it compensates for Earth's rotation, but not for the target's own tiny movements in the sky from atmospheric refraction or the mount's slight imperfections. Think of it like a car's cruise control on a slightly winding road. It keeps a steady speed, but you still have to nudge the wheel. You'll still be making tiny manual corrections, especially at higher magnifications. This leads us to a crucial mini-promise. I'll show you the simple trick to mastering this hybrid manual auto tracking so it becomes an asset, not a letdown. /N, that mount, by the way, is the heart of our second must-know truth. The Celestron AstroMaster 130EQ uses an equatorial mount, not the simpler alt-azimuth style. The marketing says this is professional. But for a true beginner, that word is often code for confusing initial setup. An EQ mount is designed to align with the Earth's axis, making tracking celestial objects easier once configured. Therefore, your first night will involve a process called polar alignment. It sounds complex, and honestly, the first time you do it, it feels like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube while someone slowly dims the lights. The tripod legs are sturdy enough, but the manual slow-motion controls for fine adjustments. They can feel a bit stiff, a bit like trying to thread a needle with oven mitts on. The open loop here is simple. Is this mount a valuable teaching tool or an unnecessary ordeal? I have a very strong opinion coming up. /N, let's open that loop right now. The equatorial mount is, in my view, the AstroMaster's double-edged sword. It forces you to learn fundamental astronomy skills. You'll understand celestial coordinates. You'll appreciate why Polaris is important, and that knowledge is priceless. And this is a huge but. It also adds significant friction to the instant gratification part of the hobby. Therefore, your personality is key. If you're a learner who enjoys the technical puzzle, you'll conquer it in 2 sessions. If you just want to point and see stars immediately, you might be wrestling with knobs while your enthusiasm leaks away into the night sky. This brings me to the third and most critical thing you need to know, a factor that will make or break your views of the Orion Nebula. /N, the third thing is the hidden variable, collimation. The AstroMaster 130EQ is a Newtonian reflector telescope. It uses a primary mirror at the bottom and a secondary mirror near the top to bounce light to your eyepiece. For it to perform at its best, those mirrors must be in perfect alignment. This is collimation, but here's the industry's quiet secret. Almost no reflector telescope ships perfectly collimated. Therefore, you, the astronomer, must learn to tune your instrument. It's not technically difficult with a simple tool called a collimation cap or laser, but it's an intimidating concept. Imagine buying a guitar that's guaranteed to go out of tune after every car ride. That's a Newtonian. The promise I'll make good on is this: I will demystify collimation for you in plain language before this review is over, because mastering it unlocks the true 130 aperture power of this scope. And let's talk about that power. The 130 5.1-inch parabolic primary mirror is the hero here. It gathers over twice as much light as a common 70 refractor. Therefore, the views of deep sky objects like the Hercules cluster or the Dumbbell Nebula are genuinely impressive for the price. Planets are where it can shine. On a night of steady air, Saturn's rings are unmistakable, a tiny, breathtaking jewel. You can see the division between Saturn's rings and the planet itself. Jupiter shows its two main cloud bands and its 4 Galilean moons dancing in a line. And we always have a but, this clarity is 100% dependent on collimation and cooling. That mirror needs time to acclimate to the outside temperature, or you'll get wavy, blurry views. So the joke about astronomers is we spend the first hour of our night just waiting for our gear to catch up with the weather. It's like inviting a friend over who's always late because they had to find the right jacket. /n/n now, the accessories. The scope comes with two eyepieces, a 20mm and a 10. The 20mm is your wide-field workhorse, great for finding objects and viewing star clusters. The 10 gives you more magnification for planets. They are adequate Kellner eyepieces, not the premium plurals you might upgrade to later. The finder scope is a 6x30, meaning 6x magnification with a 30mm lens. It's a correct image finder, which is fantastic for beginners because left is left and right is right, unlike many upside-down finders. But its mounting bracket is notoriously flimsy. Aligning it with the main telescope can feel like a miniature version of aligning the EQ mount, fiddly. A pro tip: do your finder scope alignment in the daytime on a distant terrestrial target. Trying to align it on a star at night is the astronomical version of trying to assemble IKEA furniture by candlelight. It leads to profanity. /n/n, the assembly itself is straightforward, mostly attaching the tube to the mount and the mount to the tripod. The manual is clear enough. However, the tension knobs that control the telescope's movement in the mount's rings can be tricky. Over-tighten, and you can't move the scope. Under-tighten, and it slews wildly when you let go. The sweet spot is small. This is where that seconds to value I promised gets tested. Therefore, my strong recommendation is to do a full dry run setup in your living room during the day. Learn the knobs, practice moving the tube, get a feel for the slow-motion cables. That way, when darkness falls, you're not fumbling. You're observing. This is the fundamental contract with the 130EQ. It demands a little prep work for a big payoff. /n/n, let's resolve the three truths. First, the motor drive. It's a helpful assistant, not an autopilot. Use it to take the heavy lifting out of tracking, but keep your hands on the manual slow-motion controls for fine-tuning. It's perfect for showing a group of friends Jupiter without having to constantly recenter it every 30 seconds. Second, the equatorial mount. It's a teacher. Embrace the learning curve. Once you've done polar alignment a few times, it becomes a 5-minute ritual. It transforms you from a casual looker into an observer. And third, collimation. It's non-negotiable. Buy a simple collimation cap for under $15. Learn the process. A 130 mirror out of collimation performs worse than a 70 that's aligned. But when it's tuned, the views are stunningly sharp for this price point. /n/n, so, who is the Celestron AstroMaster 130EQ for? It's for the dedicated beginner. The person who doesn't mind reading a few online tutorials, who sees the setup as part of the adventure. It's not a grab-and-go scope. It's an instrument that rewards patience and effort with serious astronomical performance. For the visual observer on a budget who wants to dive deep into the hobby, it's arguably the best entry point reflector. It's the telescope equivalent of learning to drive a manual transmission. More involvement, but more connection and control. The joke is, using it makes you feel like a real astronomer, partly because you're always doing something that feels vaguely technical and important. \n who should avoid it. Anyone seeking pure, simple, instant pleasure. If you want to be outside and viewing in under 2 minutes, get a Dobsonian. If the thought of collimation or polar alignment makes you sigh, this isn't your scope. This telescope has character, and sometimes that character is a bit stubborn. It's like that brilliant but eccentric friend who's amazing once you understand them, but a bit hard to introduce at parties. But for the right person, that character is exactly what makes the hobby stick. You're not just looking at the stars, you're operating a machine to hunt them down. \n in resolution. The Celestron AstroMaster 130EQ is a powerhouse trapped in a beginner's body. It gives you a large aperture and an equatorial mount for a remarkably low price. Therefore, the compromises are in the refinement of the mechanics and the required user knowledge. If you accept it as a learning platform, a telescope you will grow with and likely upgrade parts of, like the eyepieces or finder scope, it is an unbeatable value. It won't coddle you, but it will show you the universe. The final joke is on the marketing. They sell it as an easy way to see the stars. The truth is, it's a rewarding way to find them, and for that, it earns a cautious but confident recommendation. For the best price on Amazon right now, click the link in the description. Clear skies.